Movie Holics!
Did you read a review where the critic told you should not or should see a film? But then you found out that without a doubt the film critic must have been ill. It's the attack of the Rotten Tomatoes. It's the attack. Now it's time to fight back against Rotten Tomatoes.
Welcome back, Movie Holics, to another amazing episode of Attack of the Rotten Tomatoes. I'm Monica Kasarik.
And I'm Kyler Wilson, and today we are looking at a film by a director that this channel has yet to talk about.
That movie is Deathproof by Quentin Tarantino. It currently has a critic score of 67% and an audience score of 72%.
We're looking at this movie because it's his lowest rated work on Rotten Tomatoes, and we think it's far better than average.
Funny thing is that we think there is at least one other movie from the Tarantino collection that should rate lower. But we'll talk about that another day.
Now, before we get started, I feel like we need to clarify, again, just like we did in the very first episode, that we understand how Rotten Tomatoes works.
We have received some comments that would insinuate that we don't. So let's get on the same page.
We understand that Rotten Tomatoes is not giving the movie a 67%. 67% is only the percentage of reviewers who found this movie favorable.
There! Now you don't need to leave a comment explaining that to us. We already know.
On with the show, let's jump right in and see what Philip French has to say. A tedious, meaninglessly anachronistic project. Well, somebody won their school spelling bee when they were a kid. For those of you who don't know, anachronistic means old-fashioned, or against time. No, I did not know what that meant before reading his review. But what I do know is that this film was intentionally filmed in an old style that would match that of like an old grindhouse film. So if you were to say anachronistic to Quentin Tarantino, he'd probably say thank you. But when I read it, all I can think is douchebag.
From Ben Cobb. No need to buckle up. Deathproof is stuck in the slow lane. Self-indulgent and uninspired, bankrollers Bob and Harvey Weinstein should have reined in Tarantino with a genuine grindhouse-sized budget. We understand that Tarantino's films are hard to watch for some. Some people just can't handle the pace the movie flows when it's based entirely on dialogue alone. But I find it weird that you use the term self-indulgent. Theoretically, every filmmaker on the planet is making movies that they like, which is self-indulgent. Which means theoretically, your review is every bit as self-indulgent as Tarantino's and every other movie.
From Elliot Noble. Ladies and gentlemen, Quentin Tarantino presents Deathproof, another feature-length gimmick that chokes two screamingly good action sequences in a smog of self-indulgent, self-referential, self-satisfied flatulence. I have two things to say about your comments. You seem to be implying that Tarantino's films are gimmicky. And if by gimmicky you mean that people talk a lot in Tarantino's films, then you need to change your definition of the word gimmick. Also, you use that word. Again, self-indulgent. Do you not understand that if we lived in a world where writers and directors weren't self-indulgent about what they made, that we'd have a bunch of movies consisting of static shots where nothing happened? Again, you writing a review is self-indulgent, no?
From Urban Cinephile Critics. The problem for Tarantino and Deathproof is that the girl talk that occupies so much of the running time is anything but true to the culture 50 years ago. The setting is contempo, but the movie style is period. While this movie pays homage to the movies of the 70s era, as far as we can tell, it never explicitly says that it is set in the 70s. So contempo yet period is exactly as it should be. Or didn't you get that?
From Nigel Andrews. This blend of girly action flick with retro car chase movies scores not out of 10 for artistic expression, but 4 for amiable delinquency. Here's the thing. I'll allow you to have that opinion. But don't take offense when I throw in your face the fact that on your Rotten Tomatoes profile, you love Star Wars Episode 7, Trainwreck, and Jurassic World, all of which have about as much artistic expression as a Mr. Potato Head. So dislike Deathproof if you want, that's totally fine, I'm 100% okay with it. Just don't use the fact that it lacks artistic expression when you say you don't like it.
From Derek Malcolm. The dialogue with which Tarantino is usually adept is disastrously clunky, the filmmaking largely without flair, and even the aping of the smears and scratches of schlock originals seem ridiculous. As if the critics exclude the intent of the filmmaker when they do these reviews. The smears and scratches are there to mimic grindhouse films from the 70s. The film was intentionally damaged. Those aren't After Effects transitions. If you don't like his intent, fine. But don't ignore the fact that that was intentional.
From Charles Cassidy. Tarantino's very bloody half of Grindhouse. Yes it is. Also, if you don't like blood, don't watch Tarantino film. That should be given.
Here's the deal. Quentin Tarantino even says that this is probably his weakest work.
And it doesn't even rate all that low. But the whole reason that this show exists is so that when a movie is panned horribly or praised adorably, you get that center movie Holics view on what we think about it.
And for this, we're going to raise the Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter from 67% to 88%.
We both find the film wildly engaging and extremely well written.
So what do you all think? Were we unfair in our review of the Rotten Tomatoes reviews? Or did we get it right?
Make sure to let us know in the comment section below, guys. As always, hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud, and leave us a comment over at movieholics.net, and we'll catch you next time on Attack of the Rotten Tomatoes.
Stay fresh, Movie Holics!